Many thanks for still being there. Of course, Rise and Shine Daily is what we are having. And this morning, like I told you before we went on that particular break, we are looking at a situation in the educational sector when they say BSc and HND. What is the difference and why do we even have a dichotomy? And how can we move forward? Because, of course, the body in Polytechnic is saying, look, President Muhammadu Buhari, before you even step out, before you leave office, make sure you get to sign this bill into law where there is an abolishment of this particular dichotomy, because it's causing a lot of people issues, challenges, especially when trying to get a job. And so this morning we have some gentlemen in the studios to put perspective to this conversation this morning. The gentleman in white, looking very splendid this morning, is Dr. Nyanga Akpan. He is a lecturer at University of Uyo. Thank you so much, Doctor, and many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And of course, a friend of the house, Professor Etefia Kanum, a professor of law and also Dean Students Affairs, University of Uyo. Prof, many thanks for joining us. It's been a while, though.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here. Nice seeing your beautiful face.
Thank you so much. And this is more like we are having conversations based on your habitats. You know, that's the educational sector. But serious concerns now. I think we need to talk about what BSc is, what HND is, what is the dichotomy. Let me start with Professor Nyang Akpan.
All right. Thank you very much. We have been so used to these terms over the years that sometimes we hardly remember what it means. If I start with BSc, BSc actually is a name or describes the degree that is offered when a person specializes in the area of science, pure basic science, Bachelor of Science degree. Some people make the mistake of using BSc to describe any degree. It is not proper. The proper thing is that if you are, for instance, if you are studying or reading a course, say mathematics, biology, physics, chemistry, and even the social sciences, at the end of the day in the university, you'll be awarded a degree called BSc, BSc Honors, and some would add honors. We are not going into that. But if you are studying art subjects like history, English, you get a BA, Bachelor of Arts. But if you are coming into education, for instance, and you're reading either the sciences or the arts, to be specializing as a teacher, one teaching that course as a specialist, you are either given BSc 8, Bachelor of Science Education, or BA 8, Bachelor of Arts Education. Now, for the HND, it's Higher National Diploma. And before you get to Higher National Diploma, you first get ND, National Diploma. Before now, it used to be referred to as OND. But I think over time, they changed the name to ND, National Diploma. So when you do the first 2 years in the Polytechnic, you are given ND, National Diploma, and then you proceed for IT to acquire practical skill, practical work. After that year, 1 year of practical activity, you now go back to do the HND. If you don't finish, if you don't fulfill these conditions, you can't proceed to do the HND. So while HND certificates are obtained from polytechnics, BSc degrees are obtained from universities.
Okay, so I think that brings us, it gives it a scope now and brings us to our main conversation. Why we have a situation where, you know, job seekers or employers are more interested in people that have BSc and not also interested in people that have HND. I think because this seems to be the dichotomy now, and that's why the body of polytechnics are saying, look, we need to abolish that dichotomy. Let it be. So what's the difference? What makes BSc much more appreciated than HND? Prof, please just help us on that.
You see, like my colleague has said, one is gotten from the university, the other one from polytechnics. Now, for me, university and polytechnics were meant to serve different purposes. I think polytechnics were mainly to concentrate on technical courses, technological base. So, but you see, in me, I would also look at it as being a matter of nomenclature. The person who is in the polytechnic spends, I think, the first 2 years for the ND, then 1 year practical experience, then he goes back for another 2 years. That is about 4 years in the classroom plus 1 year practical experience. That was to fill a gap in the system. That gap was the drive, the nation's drive for technological development. That was why. Which means, whereas universities were not necessarily, even though in the course of time, science-based and universities of technologies were established to also do something similar to what the polytechnics were to do. But the drive for preference for university certificate, in this case, the BSc, the BA, or the LLB for lawyers, is just is just something peculiar to Nigerians. Elsewhere, it is not so. For me, it should be a matter of choice. What does this person want to be? Then the person should be able to make up his mind to. If, for example, let me say this: if a technician is needed to fill a gap somewhere, for me, I prefer we go for somebody
from the polytechnic.
From the polytechnic, for me. But ours is a country where one could see someone who studied, for example, let me say the history of my village, and you are giving him a job to do as an accountant. In our country, we see such things going on. So when there are openings, I think what the emphasis should really be who is fit for this, not necessarily where the person is. And this issue of this dichotomy, this and that, for me, it shouldn't even be there in the first place, because these are like two rivers. They are all going to the same place. They all have their purposes. They have their needs in the society. And so they should just be allowed to run their courses.
Okay, so something that is worthy of note is the fact that ASUP, which is the Association of Polytechnic, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, rather ASUP, yes, they're moving and asking that President Muhammadu Buhari signs into law a bill seeking to end, this dichotomy between
yes,
BSc holders and HND holders before he leaves office May 29. It's more like we need this help before you leave, because they are saying that it is a major problem for Nigerian youth, and it's also adversely affecting the fact that Nigerian youth no longer want to pursue an education in polytechnics, because it's more like when they come out, it's never in their favor in the labor market, and even in terms of pursuing what would you call it now, promotions at workplaces. Yes. But like, you've given us the background of why, this is BSc and why this is HND. But let's look in terms of like, on the overall, why do you think we've had that dichotomy in the first place? Because BSc holders, we need to establish that. BSc holders think that they actually have something over an HND holder. It's just
exactly.
Like, oh, I'm a BSc holder, you're an HND holder. That thing happens.
But in truth, right, the polytechnic is even more practical than the universities. It's more practical.
We should admit that.
Yes.
Maybe we should go back to where we started from.
That was
because let me also correct one impression you may say. People prefer the workers.
I think there's that preference. There's a reason.
Now, as Prof has said, How did we come by HND into the Nigerian educational system or diploma? No, when Nigeria gained independence, and there was need, especially after the Civil War, there was need for manpower, middle-level manpower to drive the economy.
Yes.
Number one, we didn't have enough universities to produce the manpower for us. And even if they were universities, you would need to wait for 4 years for somebody to mature to come out and occupy.
Yes.
So there was need to start from the lower rung. And the polytechnic education offered an opportunity, just like College of Education. Then you recall that in the days of Southeastern State and later Cross River State, two major educational institutions, the Polytechnic, Calabar Polytechnic, and the College of Education. The essence was to produce immediate middle-level manpower to assist.
Within 2 years.
Within 2 years.
To
For the
drive the economy.
NCE teachers, 3 years, you have them. For the polytechnics, 2 years, you have them, and they are available. And number two, this polytechnic education is essentially technical based, artisanal based,
Yes.
Exactly.
practical, like you have said. They do the works. Whereas they cannot initiate, they are not exposed to the position where they can determine policy decisions, initiate, organize, and administer. That knowledge will come from somebody who would have been in the university.
Okay.
Therefore,
I think we're beginning to establish the
That is
difference
why.
now.
That is why, if the two of them are employed, one naturally would be on top, and one would be taking instructions from the other. I'm talking about, say, a graduate from the university is employed today, and HND or even ND person is employed. Naturally, the graduate will be made the boss, to be giving directives, to be making policies
decision.
and guiding the
Yes.
move. And so from that beginning, we have established the dichotomy. Then there is also the dimension of the dichotomy, the dimension of qualification.
Yes.
What do you take to get into a polytechnic to study your program? 3 credits,
Okay.
you go. So if somebody has only 3 credits in maybe including English language or whatever, to go and do ND and come out, and after practical exposure, he comes to do HND. Can you compare him with somebody with 5
Five
Five
credits.
credits.
5 credits, including
Including
English
English
language?
and maths.
mathematics.
No. The other person goes into the university, spends 4 years, and essentially he will be involved in intensive research. Writing I'm not saying that people who go to polytechnics don't write projects. They have their own things they do.
Yeah.
But naturally, that is how the system, we had programmed it based with the policy. We have programmed it to create that dichotomy between somebody from the university and another person from the polytechnic.
Yeah.
And even when we engage them, we say from the university you arise to the sky is your limit. If they should extend the grade levels to 25 now, and the graduate of universities will rise there. But for the person from polytechnic, they say, please, you stop at 14. No matter how brilliant, no matter how exceptional you are, and no matter how intelligent, your level is what? 14. It may be different in the private sector, but for the government, that is where it stands.
Okay, so this is majorly like a systemic issue. And Prof, I'm going to ask, when it looks this systemic, it means that a bill will not bring the solution. I don't think that, a bill necessarily...
It depends on the contents of the bill.
Of the bill.
Okay.
I
Depends on
think
the
it
contents
is
of the bill.
possible. It is possible for a bill to
Address the
for a law.
issues.
Let me say law to address
Yes.
the issue. But then we seem to be forgetting where we came from, how we started. History is very important. Now, by the time we do this, are we also saying that the entry qualification for these programs will be adjusted so that anybody who is taking admission into the polytechnic also must have the qualification that the person aspiring into the university will have? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, now, On the other hand, in the university, students are basically taught to reason, come up with ideas, come up with policies. And at the polytechnic, it is mainly to come up with ideas to use your handcraft. And that, to me, fills a big gap in the society. These are different purposes these institutions are filling. Now, for the lecturers, for you to be employed rather, to teach in the university, the qualifying grade matters. First class or 2-1. Is that what is obtainable at the polytechnic? So when we are making this argument, so why don't we take it all through? I have a colleague, he's a lecturer in the polytechnic, and he told me clearly, the day he saw my payslip, he said, you remain there, you want to be a professor, remain there and be your professor. He said, what you are collecting is far lower than what he. Meanwhile, I'm like two what do I say, promotions ahead of him. What he is collecting at the polytechnic is far higher than what I am collecting as a professor. But I'm not complaining. I'm not even making the comparison.
So I think that
choice he made.
I think that
ASUP
is not complaining about their pay or
That's
welfare,
what I'm saying.
but they are complaining about the negative effects this dichotomy is having on students
exactly
and even in society.
I am saying, while making this argument, we should also go back to the basics. What is the qualification in admission? What is the qualification for employment? The person who has a first class and is teaching, and the other one who could have maybe the other grade. Sorry, I'm saying the other grade, which means anyone, even including first class, could do.
Exactly.
But something lower than first class will also do. That is also a dichotomy we should talk about. So if we are, the bill should be able to address all of this. In doing that too, what happens to that need of providing for low-level manpower? If you have 10 children, say two, three out of the 10 are very good. They can make their 5 credit at a sitting, and others cannot. Now, these ones who can make 5 credit at a sitting can move to the university. Now, there's always a space. There should be a space for these other ones. If they can struggle and have, say, 3 credits, should they remain at home?
So you're invariably saying that the push for by ASUP now to cause President Muhammadu Buhari to sign into law this particular bill is not necessary.
Well, I think we have to understand one issue. The push by ASUP may be essentially concerning those with HND, because there is no way you can equate ND with degree.
That's true.
Yeah, they're talking about HND.
They are talking about HND. Then we start from how did they get to the HND? I'm not saying that we shouldn't do. After all, they belong to us. They are occupying and they are carrying out providing essential
services. Yes.
In the system. So it is there. I think what we need is, number one, we may also have to look at what obtains in other countries. We borrowed this from the British system that our former colonial master, and we thought that it would be necessary to introduce. Is that what obtains? Is it what is still obtaining there? If it is not, then we need to understand that we have to regulate the system in such a way that it meets our own interests without discriminating against ourselves. Like we are looking at it now. Somebody with HND, what are his basis? Now we are having issues with certificates, especially the basic certificates, here and there, almost everywhere. If somebody had he used 3 credits to enter into polytechnic, and after that they say he has not improved, there's nothing he has added. Now he has ND, and with that ND he's qualified to do HND, and he does it and successfully comes out. Would you, in all honesty, say that he should be equated with the a person who entered the university with 5 credits.
When we talk about and try to make, those distinctions, it brings me back to a typical graduate from a Nigerian university. We have seen graduates churned out from universities that can't make simple, correct sentences.
The thing flows like that to every level, and of course, every many of the products. It doesn't matter whether it's from the university. It also applies to people from polytechnics and even colleges of education. It cuts across. Yes. It's not because in the university. We still have to. That is the issue now. The baseline. Where do these people come from? Some people think that if somebody who cannot write his name, who cannot write well, cannot speak well, and is a graduate of the university, we look at the lecturers, we look at the university, they didn't teach well. If somebody didn't have the qualification, and there's little you can do in 4 years to change him. And if the same person went to Polytechnic, he will still come out from the same with the same
result. But I think we are even having that argument based on the fact that if we have these kind of scenarios coming out from both the university and the polytechnic education environment, why then do we allow this dichotomy to thrive?
Even exist?
We created it. We can also remove it. Like we suggesting that if you now say by law for you to go into the polytechnic 5 credits, it stands. So that is the beginning. Number 2, by law, when you finish from the polytechnic, you are employed, you can rise to the level 17 in the public service. As I said, the private sector may not have issues because they are well paid, better paid there. But even as he said, even in the public sector, like for instance, between the polytechnic lecturers and university lecturers, they earn more than us. Even the lecturers in the colleges of education, they earn more than us, the university. So again, they also have to make the law that this disparity will also be removed, such that if you are teaching in a tertiary institution, you should not earn less than this. They may be
it becomes cross-capital for all institutions.
They may be complaining about the disparity in terms of
degrees.
The quality of, they are not, of course, also complaining about how we are being treated in the university.
I think that's more serious problem. But Prof, you want to add something to that?
To say something.
You see, for me, it is not just what is obtainable elsewhere. What we have here was to meet peculiar needs that we found ourselves. These days, sometimes you have an umbrella, for example, and you need somebody to fix it for you. You go around, you don't see anybody to fix it. What do? You throw it away. Meanwhile, the polytechnic was meant to fill that gap. Now, if the polytechnics are now launching to equate themselves with the university, so what happens to that young boy in the village who has attempted school set and has his 3 credits, and has tried, he cannot make up to 5 credits? Are we going to say that there should be no space for him? Now, if the polytechnic is there to fill that gap, is that boy not still going to be useful to the society? He is. So what my position is that let us not just pick one aspect of it. Like I said, I have a friend, he lectures there. When we went in at the point of entry, he didn't need to have what the quality of pass I had to be employed. But with the quality of pass he had, he could be employed there. He got in there, he's happy there. I am this way, whether I'm happy or not, I am here. But he laughs at me and says, you, the professor you won't be. Is that perhaps his children will now come into the university, but for him, he needs money, and that is why he's there. He's satisfied. So that's the point we are making.
But Prof, let's even look at how this is also affecting the university. Now, as you've been saying, this dichotomy and disparity is making the polytechnic non-attractive to young people, which is correct. Invariably going to be causing overcrowd in our universities. Yes, when I was in school in Unical, from the Department of Political Science, we were over 150 in a particular class.
If you get
12,
there now, it should be about
more
say
than
getting
that.
to 300.
So how can one lecturer be teaching over 300 people? Where is even the class space? So some people will be hanging by the windows. Some people will not even have lockers to sit.
When
Alright,
they might have
So they are
naturally
saying
been
that
privileged to go to
if-
the polytechnic.
You know, this, yes, some people would have gone to the Polytechnic,
Yes.
some people would have gone to the colleges of education.
Yeah, all
but
right.
because of these disparities, we are finding overcrowding in our universities.
I think if we can look at it from another perspective, the perspective of the contents, the curricular contents
Okay.
of polytechnic education and university education. Because when they are talking about equating, how many credit hours do you cover to get MD, to get HND? What are the courses? What are the contents of the courses you are studying? Somebody is studying electrical engineering in Polytechnic. Another person is studying electrical engineering in the university. What can you use to equate them? Is it the course contents? Is it the profiles of the lecturers teaching? Is it the research? So they should go beyond just saying it demoralizes. As I said earlier, the demoralization has to do with our own value system in Nigeria. We created it, we established it. If we want to remove it, we can remove it.
Now, okay, I wanted to add that in the like he said, engineering, in the university, a student will spend 5 years in the classroom to study engineering. Now, when you now get to the Polytechnic, 2 years ND, 2 years HND. Now, the student in the university may still have to go for IT.
Yes.
You look at this, and at the end of the day,
That is
they are
our
all
research.
out. They are all out. And you are saying both of them should be
the same
equated. Now, the point of entry was not
Not the same.
the same.
So
these are the
what
issues.
balances
The quality.
what balances it out? Somebody that, you know, they put me ahead of somebody that comes out of the Polytechnic. I know the theoretical aspect, but I don't know the technical aspect. So we're
And
supposed
which is
to
greatly
be
lacking in our universities.
Yes.
That's
so
something
we're
else.
supposed to be ahead. For somebody that can roll his sleeves up and fix that thing, and for you that just comes and say, oh, do this thing this way, do it that way.
Jenny,
let's mark out the
there is
fact that-
something that has taken care of that.
Okay.
Now, we are not talking about pay. It is possible you see somebody who is in grade level 7, so, for example, a technologist, and you see a university graduate who is in grade level, say, what do you call it, 8 or 9. But the other person, what it takes home is higher. The lower person, what it takes home is higher than what the other person. We are not talking about this. These things are there. Sometimes people outside do not know. I just give you an example of my pay slip and that of a Polytechnic lecturer. And nobody's talking about this. So for me, I think there's nothing wrong in saying, let us equate with this. But would you now say that that need that the Polytechnic education was to fill in the society, what happens to it?
Now let's use your establishment here.
Yeah.
You read let me assume that you read mass communication or communication as the case may be in the university 4 years, and you were employed here. Another person read the same course, communication as in the Polytechnic, 2 years, and maybe have HND.
Another 2
comes
years.
out. So who should be providing the directives? You or that person? Because, like we said, there are so many things you would have been exposed to that he had not. And if you are not there to provide the direction, you will discover that the blame will be on you for not doing the right thing. But because you think, not that he cannot do it, he can do it very well. Even in the engineering aspects, you have a graduate here and you have somebody from a Polytechnic here. He can fix it, he can determine it. So after fixing it and putting it in shape, what next? You are the one to decide what should be done, how it should be done.
He
So
might be
that
very
is-
good in handling the technical
Yes,
aspect.
might be very good. So we give it to them. If, for me, if you were to ask me, we need more, maybe we should even require that we are exposed to all this technical education,
Yes,
vocational
because
education,
that is what I was
so
going
that
to come to.
we acquire the skills.
Yes.
But when it comes to policy directions and planning, directing, organizing, definitely they
university
cannot
education.
compare with graduates of the
graduates.
university.
Okay. So I think we've really established, and it looks like there's no way to argue this out of a law court right now. The issues are there foundationally in the way the polytechnics were structured
Yes.
and the way the universities were structured. But we are saying if we are looking for a way out of even downsing this dichotomy the least bit that we can, especially because, as you've been saying, our primary problem is that polytechnic education is no longer attractive for Nigerian
Yes.
youth. How can we address that issue?
How we can address that issue now is, like we said, a law can be made to address that. But what would the law do?
The fixing.
We have been crying over the years about the attitude of the government to education generally, not polytechnic, not university. We cry about the conditions of our primary schools, the conditions of our secondary schools, the conditions of our polytechnics and the universities. If the government wants to be sincere with the system, they should sit down and plan to overhaul the entire system. We have structures, like you rightly said, the universities are overpopulated, overcrowded. Meanwhile, the polytechnics may be empty with all the fine structures and the equipment in their laboratories. So why can't you upgrade them? Upgrade the staff, the personnel, upgrade the facilities, and then provide a level playing ground for everybody, so that the matter of maybe drop the name, the nomenclature, diploma, national, higher, and call it a degree, so that we all pursue. But then let us have a common a benchmark. Say whether in the polytechnic or in the university. By the way, do you know that if you have a HND, you can't be, if you don't have a first degree, basic first degree, it's difficult for you to be appointed to teach in a university. Yes, even when they say you can't teach, you can't give what you didn't have.
Yeah.
Even when you have the class of grade, the class,
So,
first class or second class upper.
we are
Nothing
not,
less.
That's even if you have those class of honors coming from from a
From a
polytechnic.
university,
we are not
from a
looking,
university,
we are not
must be
looking
first
down
class
on them.
or second class
We are not looking down on them. We are not saying that they cannot perform. After all, they have been producing high quality manpower over the years.
Yes.
But we are saying that because we have started by putting them at a certain level, we can remove those levels and equate, and then encourage them to come up, acquire the basic things they need to acquire, and then we come now provide the facilities needed for the polytechnics to come up in terms of personnel, in terms of everything that you need to do to upgrade it. And if you like, call it polytechnic. If you like, change the name. So that the opportunities will be available for people to go, and then when they come out, they know that this is where they are going.
So, okay, but Professor Etife, let me ask, what is the place of technical education in universities? Because, like, Janice pointed out, we really don't have technical education in our universities. Most of us are theoretical in everything that we know. There are very few schools and maybe lecturers that go down to the nitty-gritty of getting their students to have technical hands-on knowledge.
And then I also know that there's this introduction of entrepreneurship skills into universities. How far has it gone? Is it helping in any way?
Technical education essentially has to do with training teachers who would be teaching these basic vocational skills in either technical colleges or even secondary schools.
Okay.
There is a class, it's a specialization. And now, for instance, in the University of Uyo, we have vocational education, and for faculty of vocational education, we have those who specialize in agric.
But I'm just saying, Prof,
in computer and other areas. We call it technical education.
Okay, but Prof, I'm saying, like, in terms of other other departments.
Yes, I
We are going
understand.
beyond vocational.
I understand.
Yes, so
I
just
understand.
take that on because we
You
need
see,
to close.
You see, like it is there is a drive now. For example, in law, when I was in school, it was just book work. Today, law teaching is beyond book work. We try to engage the students into practical aspect, even in the university. And I know that this transcends beyond the faculty of law to other areas. There's this course, entrepreneurial studies. Now, even though I may have my personal opinion about how it is being taught, the focus, but then the intention was to expose students to use their hands, use their head, use their hands, and make something out of it. So that when they are out of school, they would not necessarily need to rely on somebody to become, to be employed. Now, when I was in school, for example, I knew I loved to dance. I loved to dance. And I realized that I could dance and get paid in secondary school. And I was doing it. And by the time I was out of school, that interface between out of secondary school and the university admission, I had a theater troupe. I was dancing and I was getting paid. I look around this way, I don't see those things. But finally, I want to say, I may not agree with my colleague on what he said that technology could be upgraded to university. No, I still feel that the polytechnics were established for a purpose.
And it should stick to that
Have
purpose.
we met that purpose right now? No, we have not. To me, I rather think that there could be more incentives to encourage young people to remain there. If somebody is went to the polytechnic, for example, he can be paid more than the other person who came from the university.
All right.
I see nothing wrong in that.
All right. Okay, I think that's the much we'll be able to take this morning, but it's really been a very interesting conversation, I must say. Thank you so much, Dr. Nyanga Akpan, lecturer, University of Uyo, and of course, Professor Etefia Ekanum, Dean, Student Affairs, University of Uyo, and also Professor at Law. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Definitely, these are conversations that could continue, some other time looking at the educational sector. But in all, I think what it will be my take home is that government should do a total overhaul of the educational sectors, make the polytechnics more attractive, incentives, just like Prof said, so that young people can also see it as a place that they can go to get vocational skills and all of that. But that's the much we'll be able to take this morning. Thank you so much for being a part. We'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Janice Cobham.
My name is Uyai Anekan, and as part of a very important take-home, I think our value system as a people is determining how we see issues in our country. So if we fix our side, we may be able to fix the dichotomy issues we have in the education sector. Thank you for choosing Spectrum Television. Thank you for coming on Rise and Shine. Let's do this again tomorrow.